Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today what we're going to be doing is talking about Galactic Legend modding, and kind of showing you in my opinion, the common mistakes, best practices to use for each Galactic Legend and their team. This is going to be a lot more high level. We're not going to get into details of like, okay, do this, this one here, this, that. We're going to talk in general, which is one of the best pieces of advice I will ever give you on modding. Think general, and we'll talk about this especially with some of the teams in here. General just means, hey, when that, and it sounds so stupid, but I've always thought of it like this. In general, what is the best way to mod that character? 99% of the time, that's going to be the answer. So we'll kind of show you guys what I think that is, what that looks like, and to make sure that you're getting the most out of your characters. With that said, like, subscribe, comment. Let's give a shout out to our channel members, as always, for all of their continued support. Of course, let's get that up. If you guys are ever interested, you know where the link is. More importantly, guys, just join the Discord. I really appreciate all of you believing in me through good, bad, thick, thin, whatever the situation is. I really appreciate it, guys. You know, this channel, we're doing our best with the time and the resources that I have available to me, so I really appreciate it, guys. You know, we're still going to get our content out here as much as we can, so bear with me, everyone. I do, you know, the support means the world. Let's get in here. Let's talk about some Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Alright guys, so the first team that I'm going to talk about is Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. The mistake people make here a lot of times is they mod him for just a crazy amount of speed. They just throw as fast a speed as they can on him, and what it ends up with is they lack health, or they lack offense, or critical damage, whatever it is. They don't have enough of a stat. Kylo's role has changed. He's no longer just about, okay, like with Darkseid Rey now, there's a lot more going on with him that I don't think he needs as much speed as he does in the past. He wants to be able to hit harder and have more health to be able to survive in some of these fights. Where in the past, a lot of times you needed that speed to just kind of control certain situations and control fights. Now, because of that turn meter manipulation that Darkseid Rey poses, if you can have the right amount of offense and health on him, think about when he gets a kill, Darkseid Rey, they're going to remove 100% turn meter from everybody. Well, in any fight, Kylo's going to be either the fastest or second fastest character on the field. So that turn meter manipulation happens, and then he gets to take a turn either next or after the other enemy Galactic Legend, depending on the situation. So having that, you know, health and offense proves a lot more valuable now than I think the speed. And this is going to be a big switch for a lot of you, where I think it's all about just how much speed you have on him. It really, really can be important to just have the offense, right? I think the health and the offense, I've got him modded kind of like a Rey in a sense. The triangle is still critical damage, but if you look health primaries with the offense and speed on the secondary, I think that's the way to go with Darkseid Rey, with Kylo, now that we have Darkseid Rey. Because otherwise, again, you're going to lack the health, you're going to lack the damage. Kylo's kind of a glass cannon. He's pretty easy to kill and focus down if you're not careful. So having that higher base health, I think, is really important. And then again, the offense, so that way he actually is a threat and you don't have to ignore him. All right, with Rey, this one, again, more of a mistake. I think everybody really mods Rey well. I think we all kind of get the idea of health and offense, right? But it's her team that I see a lot of players kind of ignoring or letting down. Sometimes it's even Ben Solo. You get a Ben Solo and he's got terrible mods. Listen, Rey is a threat, but she's a threat because of what her team can do to you if you don't take care of them. And I've got kind of some of the usual suspects here, Ben, Cal, all this stuff. If you have a baby Cal and you don't have all 6-dot mods on him and health, this kind of a problem, because he needs that, right? You want him hanging around as much as possible, because if you get rid of him early, well, then that fight goes, you know, so much easier, right? It's a lot easier to take care of Ben and Rey. Or, you know, not having good enough mods on like your Barris, L3, or JTR, whoever it is, and again, the list could go on and on here. They need mods to help support Rey. Rey is a threat when the entire team is present. As soon as that team starts to kind of fall apart, as soon as you start losing characters, this fight goes south very quickly and it becomes a lot more manageable. All right, JML, guys, this is another simple one. Mod him for protection. I see still sometimes people throwing too much speed or health or critical damage or potency, whatever it is. Does not make... Listen, all of the damage on this team is coming from the inherited teachings here. Deal true damage based on 60% of Jedi Master Luke's base max protection. That's everything. Just mod him for the protection and then worry about everything else. He's not an overly fast Galactic Legend as it is, so I would sacrifice the speed for protection on him as well. Because the rest of the team, like a lot of them, they're just there for moral support. They're just hanging out. They're like Jedi Knight Luke. Yes, his offense can be important in certain fights, but in other ones, not so much because of the inherited teachings. What you want out of this team, I think what we sometimes forget is if you're going to run these Jedi under JML, make sure that they are fast. You want them fast, as much speed as you can, so that way they're taking as many turns. Even my Jedi Knight Luke, I've got 130 speed on him with an offense set. That's just, you want him fast. Jedi Knight Revan, got him. Hermit Yoda. The speed on these guys is really important to be able to get inherited teachings out and get that damage going, all flowing from JML himself. So mod him for the protection and then get these guys kind of heightened speed wherever possible. All right, next we've got GL Ahsoka. So I kind of have this, defense wins championships. What we're really referring to here is with like her and Ezra Bridger, right? They're there to provide defense. They're there to just, hey, listen, like Ezra, I think one of the common things with Ezra, survivability is super important, as is the speed, right? We obviously want him fast, but with Ahsoka, you don't need as much speed on her as I think you want some of the extra, armor and resistance. The more defense that you can give her on secondaries, you just want her to be as annoying as possible. You want her to be as challenging to kill as possible, not just because sometimes of the timeout, but also because thinking about, Ahsoka, just once the whole kind of premise of this team is killing these guys and then getting to her. So one, if you can keep Ezra around longer, that's even better. But sometimes I've seen plenty of players just time out on Ahsoka because they can't kill her. This entire team is about letting General Syndulla, Hu Yang, and Padawan Sabine cook, right? It's about letting them ramp their mastery, take their turns. As annoying as Ezra can be, he's there as the annoyance. The damage is Padawan Sabine and Hu Yang, General Syndulla with the fracture. If you can keep Ezra and Ahsoka with their taunts up, keep them alive, keep them a threat for the survivability that they have, these guys will cook. So what I'm kind of saying here is, with someone like Ezra, try to find some extra armor if you can. I know it can be a challenge. It's something that I've been struggling with myself, where I haven't been able to find a ton of great defense mods for him. It's something I'm working on, but limited choices for me on that front. But if you can let this team kind of cook, I think this is the way to go. Especially, I would say, in like 3v3, if you're going to run Ahsoka, throw some defense on her. Just, again, a lot of times with this team, I kind of say it's about forcing your opponent's hand. A lot of players underestimate this. If they underestimate this team, they drop. Or they're bringing, Sith Eternal and Bane. They're bringing GL Leia, and things go, and you're, hey, are you willing to trade, big chess pieces kind of thing. Jabba. Jabba's a tough one, because I think what happens is players get too specific. All right, I'm modding Jabba to stop the Lord Vader counter, or stop this, or stop Afra. They get too specific. They start modding him, and it's not good for other situations. But also with Jabba himself, I always say with Jabba, his mods are not nearly as important as Chrysanthemum, as Leia, Embo, or even Skiffguard Lando. This is where you don't want to slack. You can slack with Jabba. I think sometimes people get really crazy, put these, insane mods on their Jabba, and then Chrysanthemum, Leia, Embo, and Skiffguard Lando don't have that supporting cast. Remember, you can't target Jabba until you kill all of these guys one time. Obviously, Chrysanthemum can revive, but you can still target Jabba if you can ignore a taunt, or if Chrysanthemum isn't taunting. So it's sometimes I feel we almost specifically get to Jabba, and then we're like, all right, well, I'll just mod, Chrysanthemum and Leia especially, but even Embo and Skiffguard Lando, the better mods you can have on the team there, they will protect Jabba. The longer this team hangs around, the worse it gets. I can't tell you how many times I have either watched my Supreme Leader Kylo Ren get beat, or watch someone else's Supreme Leader Kylo Ren get beat because he's not getting any kills, and then these guys come in. Obviously, this is prior to Darkseid Rey, because, you know, she makes life just that much easier. But I really think, don't try to, all right, I'm going to mod Leia. Like, I've seen a lot of people do it with their, you know, do this in, like, GAC recently, where we've got everybody kind of trying to set the Jabba with, Shorty Kron, or, like, the Darth Vader Kron, whatever. They try to mod Jabba or put Jabba to stop a specific counter, and then it just makes something else easier. So yeah, I'd kind of just say stick general there. Don't slack on the team mods. All right, Lord Vader. This is a big one, and I think especially with these clones now, this has changed. I think in the past, Lord Vader with Royal Guard and some of the other characters in that team, it was more so, you know, with Maul and everybody else, Lord Vader was kind of a threat, but not as much as if you let Maul or Thrawn kind of run wild on that team. What I like to do is kind of make Lord Vader a threat as much as I like to make my clones a threat. And why I say that is because, let's say you're going up against this team without a Galactic Legend. Well, you can't kill Oppo without getting to Lord Vader first. So Oppo, you know, it could be Oppo versus Lord Vader. You can't kill Oppo. So if you make Lord Vader this threat, right? They're trying to kill Lord Vader. That's going to let Oppo and CX2, Disguised Clone Trooper, Scorch, it's going to let these guys go to town. It's going to let them, hey, the attention's on Lord Vader because you've got to be able to kill Oppo, and Oppo's your, you know, hey, he's dealing all the damage, he's calling assists, you know, it's a problem, right? And then on the flip side, you do bring a Galactic Legend where you could kill Oppo and CX2 and these other characters. Now my Lord Vader is able to run wild, able to run rampant, deal damage, ramp up. So I kind of say with Lord Vader, you want him to be a threat. And I didn't really get into, you know, the craziness here, but really it's about mixing up, trying to find some offense percent where you can. I like a critical damage triangle over protection, especially at Relic 9. I still have over 200,000 protection. And if I added a protection triangle here, if I can find one quickly, oops, come on, find protection. There we go. If I just threw this on there, we get a lot more protection, but missing out, I find that the critical damage is what kind of makes him a threat, especially as he ramps up a bit. But yeah, I really think with Lord Vader, if you can find that mix of offense on some of the mods, it will prove to be a lot more of a challenge to kill him, because a lot of times in those Lord Vader fights, if you're going up with like Bo-Katan Mandalore or, you know, a subpar GL, if you can kill Lord Vader before he deals enough damage, it's pretty easy. But when he starts hitting hard, it's a problem. So that's kind of why I say you want Lord Vader to be the threat, and it kind of forces the attention either to him or forces the attention to the clones as well. So you kind of want to, you know, force that attention one way or the other on their mods. All right, Sith Eternal. This is a big one. Mod 4 usage. The amount of players I see who follow the, okay, we're going to mod Sith Eternal for all-out health, right? What are you trying to counter? Like, because I'm using him with the real GL and Darth Bane, I found that putting a speed set back on my Sith Eternal was an extremely smart decision. It's made him a lot faster. It's made him a lot more competitive, because you think, if I just modded him for all-out health, I'm just going to put on a non-speed set. So let's put on, where's Rey's mods? We're just going to put on GL Rey's mods, just for the sake of argument, so I can show. So now Sith Eternal's sitting at like 480 some odd speed, right? So you think about 480 speed, there are a bunch of characters that would be able to get close to that, or begin to even outrun that at times, depending on how you're using. Like, you could potentially outrun that with turn meter and other things, where it can become a very quick problem if he's not taking enough turns, right? Highly recommend, if you're going to run him with Bane, Bane's going to give him all the survivability he needs. Put a speed set back on him, make him faster, give him that, you know, health, right? I still think health is the way to go with him, right? Give him the health, and you'll be fine. If you're going to use him with Watt and the armor to counter some of these other things, then mod him accordingly, where maybe you need more of that max health and not as much of the speed, you know, whatever it is. I think we've gotten into this habit of, we blindly follow modding advice of someone who's using him for a very specific reason. Like, a lot of players modded theirs, like Arnold, who Arnold always used his to try to kill Jedi Master Kenobi in GAC with Watt and the Armorer. And while that's a very good tactic, if you're not pulling off that counter, that modding just did not make sense. Leia. All right. She does not need offense. The damage comes from her ultimate and the team, right? Your team and the ultimate are your sources of damage. She, even with, tactical offensive, this can deal some good damage to people. I will honestly say, look, it's dealing physical damage plus bonus true damage, increased 1% per turn meter removed from target other ally to all enemies. So the more turn meter she's removing, the more damage this deals. So as much as this is, hey, there's extra offense here, the more turn meter you remove, the more damage it's going to end up dealing. But her ultimate deals damage based on her max health. So the more max health she has, the more damage the ultimate is going to be able to deal. And that's kind of where you want the damage from, is the ultimate, is that, max health, keeping her around. Because the rest of the team will cook, right? This team has plenty of damage once they get rolling. It's not a problem, especially Captain Drogon, right? He hits extremely hard. So I really think sometimes I see a lot of people putting a ton of offense on Leia. Get the health, get the speed, and everything else will kind of fall into place. All right, Jedi Master Kenobi. This is a simple one. Protection up. Protection up. Protection up. Everything in his kit is about protection up. Protection up is based off of your max health. I preach that from the hills. It's all about protection up. So even my Commander Tano, who's an attacker, I go with, health and offense percent. Again, I know everybody's probably sick and tired of hearing me say that, but that's what I do with her, right? My Kenobi, modded for all-out health. Padme, modded for all-out health. And even my Snips, I've modded like my Rey, where I've done the health and offense. Again, I worked hard for these mods, but the protection up on this team, what makes this team, I've always said for years, the threat of the Jedi Master Kenobi team is when they start hanging around. When they start hanging around, this team becomes a problem. Remember, every single time Kenobi's hitting high ground, right? When he hits the high ground, especially at 100% charge, right? They gain, 60% health and protection, right? And then, they gain mastery equal to the amount of ultimate used, doubled at 100%. So if you do this first ultimate at 100%, they're going to gain 200% mastery. So every single time you're hitting the high ground, everybody's gaining mastery, which means Kenobi, critical damage and damage. You go down to Commander Tano, right? She's gaining critical chance, critical damage, and damage. Snips over here, critical chance, critical damage, and damage. So that mastery that they're gaining throughout that fight becomes a big problem. So if you can keep them alive and they hit that high ground, things start to go south very, very quickly with the ramping damage on this team. So I think going with the survivability is a lot better because their offense will get there naturally. And the longer they have protection up, remember inside of his leadership, where does it say it? Allies with protection up, where is it? There's a thing that says while they have protection up, they can't be critically hit. I forget where it says that. I'm not sure where it says it, but I know inside of his kit somewhere, can't be critically hit while they have protection up. So if you can keep protection up because of how much max health they have, because you think if you mod them for protection, that protection up doesn't last as long. It's easier to work through it. If you can keep their protection up as big as possible because of their max health pool, then it's far harder to get them out of it. You're not dealing as much damage, which is allowing them to survive longer and get more of their plays going. Finally, guys, Hondo. Now, I haven't had enough time, nor do I even have him to be able to really analyze this team, but I'm going to tell you, just don't overthink it. Right now with this team, I would not be overthinking it. Just mod them the way you think you'd mod them. Captain Silvo is a support, so mod him for speed, right? Speed and survivability. For Vane, right? He's a tank. Mod him for that protection. Mod him for the armor. You're going to, mod Brutus. Think about, as much damage as you possibly can, right? Get him for the offense. Some speed would be nice. Smee, I've got him purely modded just for offense, right? I think with these guys, with Hondo himself, just think, all right, don't overthink it. Don't try to get super cute and super fancy yet. I think you stick with the basics, and then we'll figure out how to mod this team in more detail once the datacrons go away. And that's kind of the final point I want to make when you're modding GLs. Again, I talk about, being general with it, right? A lot of times when you first get a GL, those mods that you stick on them, unless you've been really smart, they're going to change over time. What I will tell you is that as new characters come in, as that team changes, think about updating the mods to adjust for whatever that character's doing, right? With Darkside Rey, I was like, hey, Kylo's kind of getting a bit more survivability chances through all of these things. I'm going to go in and mod him for more survivability. Rey with Ben, right? All right, you know what? We don't need her just to, she can survive a little bit longer. All these characters, as they get new additions to their team, adjust their mods. Think about how you can make them better. So with all that said, guys, like, subscribe, comment. I hope this list helps. And if you're still watching, Wampa is king in the comments. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.